Right now, your body is heavier than it was this morning. Not because anything changed, just because the day happened. And the day always leaves something behind in the body. A heaviness in the chest. A tightness you forgot was there. Somewhere beneath the ocean's surface, there is a place where the water holds everything evenly. Where pressure arrives from all sides at once. Where nothing moves quickly. Where the only thing falling is a slow, soft snow, made of everything that has drifted down from above. Tonight, we are going there. Maybe the day left something behind in you. A weight you haven't named yet. A speed you haven't quite come down from. That's all right. Let the body settle. Let the breath find its own pace. Let the thoughts drift. The way particles drift through absolute darkness, slowly, through miles of cold water, toward a floor no light has ever touched. Tonight, we follow the midnight zone, the deep ocean, where light has never existed, where time moves only in the falling of particles, where creatures live their whole lives in a stillness we are only beginning to understand. We'll go slowly. There's no hurry. If tonight felt like something worth returning to. A quiet subscribe keeps this channel close. No rush, no pressure. Now, let's begin. The midnight zone begins roughly 1,000 meters below the surface, 1 kilometer down. At the surface right now, there is moonlight perhaps, or the glow of a city somewhere across the water. There are waves. There is wind. By 200 meters, most of the sunlight has already gone. By 1,000 meters, the last particle of it disappears. Not dims, disappears. And below that line, the midnight zone begins. It stretches down to 4,000 meters, 3 kilometers of ocean that have never, not once, received a single photon of sunlight. The sun has been rising and setting for 4.5 billion years. 4.5 billion mornings. And not one ray of that light has ever reached this place. It is not waiting for the light. It is not missing the light. It simply exists in a state where light is not a thing that happens. A single lanternfish drifting in the dark, 1,000 meters below the surface of the sea. Its small body, still, the water around it, perfectly black. The sun, far above, moving across a sky it has never known. And below that sky, something else is true. At 1,000 meters, the pressure is about 100 times what you feel right now. 100 atmospheres. Right now, the air above you presses down on every square centimeter of your body. With about 1 kilogram of force. You don't feel it. You were born into it. It is simply the weight of the world, resting gently on your skin. At 1,000 meters, that weight becomes 100 times heavier, not from above, from every direction at once. The water does not press down. It presses in from the sides, from below, from everywhere simultaneously. An evenness. That is the strange thing about pressure in the deep ocean. It is not a crushing force. Not the way we imagine crushing. It is a perfect equalization. The same weight, arriving from all directions at exactly the same moment. The creatures that live there are not being crushed. They are simply held. A deep-sea fish suspended in the dark, the water pressing against it from all sides, from above, from below, from everywhere, equally. That evenness extends to other things too. Below 1,000 meters, the temperature of the ocean barely changes. Near the surface, the sea follows the sun. Warmer in summer, cooler in winter, shifting with the seasons, breathing with the year. But in the midnight zone, none of that reaches. The temperature settles somewhere between 2 and 4 degrees Celsius, just above freezing. And it stays there. Not approximately. Not most of the time. Always. The seasons pass above. Decades pass. Centuries. Down here, the temperature does not change. There is something quieting about that kind of stillness. The world above spins through its seasons. Summer heat, winter cold. The great turning of years. And below, in the dark, the water simply holds itself at 2 degrees, unchanging, patient, not waiting for anything, just still. A thermometer lowered slowly through 1 kilometer of ocean, the number falling, and then settling and staying there. In the midnight zone, it snows. Not water snow. Not the kind that falls from clouds. Marine snow. It is made of the dead. The tiny bodies of plankton, fragments of algae, fecal pellets from creatures higher up, shed mucus, the broken down remains of everything that lived near the surface and then stopped living. These particles drift downward through the water column. Slowly, the way dust falls through a shaft of light. Except there is no light here. Just the particles falling. It can take weeks for a single flake of marine snow to travel from the surface to the floor of the midnight zone. Weeks of falling through absolute dark. A single flake of marine snow, smaller than a grain of rice, drifting downward through 1 kilometer of cold and dark. It left the surface weeks ago. It has been falling ever since. It has almost arrived. The creatures that receive it have never seen it fall. Many animals in the midnight zone have no eyes at all, or they have eyes that are vestigial, present in their form, absent in their function. small, sealed, not looking at anything. This is not damage. This is not loss. Eyes require energy to grow, energy to maintain, energy to use. And in the deep ocean, energy is scarce. If there is no light to see, then eyes are not useful. And if eyes are not useful, evolution, slowly, over millions of generations, simply stops making them. The creatures here have not gone blind. They were never designed for seeing. A small crustacean on the floor of the deep ocean, where its eyes might have been. The skin is smooth. And yet, there is light in the midnight zone. Not sunlight. Not the faint blue scattering of filtered daylight. Light that the animals make themselves. Bioluminescence. Scientists estimate that perhaps 90% of all animals that live in the deep ocean produce their own light, not to see by, to signal, a single pulse in the dark. And somewhere, another creature turns. The light does not last. It exists for a moment, and then the dark returns. The same dark, as complete as before, as if the light was never there. A single bioluminescent flash, somewhere in the midnight zone. The flash. Then darkness again. Then, somewhere, an answer. There is a creature in the midnight zone that carries its light in front of it, like a lantern. The anglerfish, the female, the hunter, has a long spine that extends from her forehead, curved forward over her open mouth, with a small glowing lure at its tip. She does not need to do anything. She simply holds still in the absolute dark and waits. Other creatures, drawn toward the glow, drift close. And then she feeds. The lure glows because of bacteria living inside it. The light does not go out. A light suspended in the blackness of the deep ocean. Small, steady, and around it, the dark, enormous, and very still. The midnight zone is not silent. Sound travels further in water than in air, and faster. The deep ocean carries sound across distances we can barely imagine. The creatures of the midnight zone are sensitive to vibration. They feel the water move. They read pressure waves, the faint trace of other bodies passing nearby. The deep ocean has its own sound world, quiet but never silent. A whale, somewhere near the surface, singing, the sound traveling downward into the dark, into the midnight zone, still moving. The sound reaches the floor. On the floor of the midnight zone, moving slowly across the sediment, there are sea cucumbers, soft-bodied, slow. They move by contracting their muscles. against the seafloor. A small wave of motion traveling through a body that is mostly water. They are among the most common creatures on the floor of the deep ocean, and they eat by passing sediment through their bodies. The marine snow that has accumulated, the fine gray-brown dust of everything that has drifted down from above. They take the dead into themselves and release it, changed. Not dramatic, not fast. Just passing, moving, processing. One small, soft body on the floor of the deep ocean. The sediment going in, the sediment going out. There are no seasons in the midnight zone. No day and night. No morning. No evening. The temperature does not change. The light does not change. The only measure of time is the slow arrival of marine snow. A seasonal pulse, faint and delayed, from the surface world above. In spring and summer, more plankton bloom at the surface. More bodies fall. The snow thickens slightly, and then less, and then more again. A year passing, as a slight variation in the number of particles falling through the dark. Not a sunrise, not a change in temperature, just more falling, then less, then more. Time measured in snow, a particle of marine snow drifting through the midnight zone. Below it, more particles drifting. Above it, some season, spring perhaps, or autumn. In that unmeasured time, something drifts. There is a creature in the midnight zone that is neither squid nor octopus. It belongs to its own order, ancient, separate, the only species in its category. The vampire squid. Despite its name, it does not hunt. In a world where food is scarce, where the energy cost of chasing prey could outweigh the energy gained, the vampire squid has found another way. It spreads its webbed arms wide and trails long, sticky filaments through the water. These filaments catch marine snow as it falls. The same particles drifting down from the surface. It gathers what the water brings, gently, as it passes. The vampire squid drifting in the midnight zone, arms open wide. The marine snow falling past it, into it, caught softly and taken. The midnight zone is still, not still the way a room is still after everyone is left, still the way a place is still when it has always been still. When stillness is not the absence of something, but simply what the place is. The water moves, but so slowly. A current that takes centuries to carry itself from one ocean to another. At the scale of a lifetime, the water is not moving, just holding holding the creatures inside it, holding the particles of marine snow, slowing their fall, holding everything in the same quiet, even pressure from every direction at once. A body held by the deep ocean, not sinking, not rising, just held quietly in the dark. In the midnight zone, nothing rots. Not in the way you know rot. Not the soft, warm collapse of a leaf on the forest floor. Not the quick unmaking that happens in warmth and air. Down here, cold stops almost everything. The dark stops almost everything. The pressure holds things in a kind of suspension that is almost beyond imagining. A creature that falls from the surface. A whale, a fish, a single cell drifts slowly downward for hours, sometimes days, and when it finally rests on the floor of the midnight zone, it is still, in some sense, almost whole. Decay happens, but slowly, so slowly. That time seems to have forgotten to do its work. Scientists have found things on the seafloor, preserved not by intention, but simply by the cold, the dark, the weight of everything above, that looked almost the way they did when they were living, as if the deep had kept them in a kind of pause, a long pause, a pause that lasts longer than a life. A bowl of fruit left out in the summer, by the third day, soft at the edges. By the fifth, gone. 4,000 meters down, that bowl would still be there. There are fish here. That still surprises scientists every time they find them. Not just bacteria, not just creatures so alien that calling them animals feels like a mistake. Fish with spines and eyes and fins. The Hadal snailfish has been found deeper than almost anything else with a backbone. Deeper than 8 kilometers in some trenches. In pressure, that would collapse. A human body in an instant. And yet, it swims. Slowly. Almost gently. Its body is translucent. You can see through it. Faintly, if the light catches it right. A ghostly thing. A soft thing. It has no hard bones in the way you might expect. Its skeleton is more like cartilage, flexible enough to survive. What rigid things could not? The deep, in this way, selects for softness. What is rigid breaks. What bends can stay. Scientists believe it may be near the absolute limit, the deepest that any fish with a spine can survive. Below a certain depth, even flexibility stops working. Even softness has a floor. A single sheet of paper, folded once, still folded, still paper. The deep keeps its own rules. You know photosynthesis? Everyone does. Light comes down. A plant catches it, turns it into life. The whole surface of the world runs on that engine. Every animal you've ever seen is in some way downstream of sunlight. But in the midnight zone, no sunlight reaches. And yet, life persists, even thrives. Near hydrothermal vents, where water heated by the earth rises through cracks in the seafloor, bacteria have built a different engine. They eat chemicals, sulfur compounds mostly, hydrogen sulfide rising from the vents. And from that, they make life without a single photon, without the sun. An entire food chain rooted not in light, but in heat and chemistry and the slow workings of the Earth's own interior. Scientists call it chemosynthesis. The word is clinical. The reality is something else. It means life found another door when the surface door closed. The light, the warmth, the photons. Life went looking and found a door in the rock and opened it. A room you have never entered. You assumed it was a wall. It was always a door. The deepest places. The narrow, steep-sided trenches carved into the seafloor are called the Hadal Zone, named for Hades, the underworld, the place the Greeks imagined, beneath everything. And in those trenches, in those depths beyond the midnight zone proper, amphipods flourish, small crustaceans, like shrimp, loosely, but not shrimp, shrimp-like things. They gather in masses at the very deepest points, in numbers that seem, at first, impossible. How can so much life exist so far from the sun? The answer is marine snow. It filters down, slowly, through all the zones above, through the sunlit zone, through the twilight, through the midnight, settling. And much of it arrives on the deep floor. The amphipods eat what falls. They thrive on it. An entire civilization of small creatures, living on what the surface world lets go of, on what drifts down, on the leftovers of the light. A table cleared after a meal. The crumbs, the small pieces, the things that fell. Down here, there is no surface to remember. On the surface, you know seasons. Even if your winters are mild, even if you've never seen snow, you know that the world breathes differently. In different months, the light changes, the air changes, something inside you changes when the days grow short. The midnight zone does not know this. The temperature at 4,000 meters deep does not rise in summer, does not fall in winter. The pressure does not shift. The darkness does not deepen or lighten. There is no August. There is no February. There is only the same quiet, the same cold, the same slow drift of particles through the dark. For a creature in the midnight zone, time is not divided the way it is for you. Not into seasons, not into years in any meaningful sense. Scientists study the growth rings in the otoliths, the tiny bones inside fish ears, to age deep sea creatures. And what they find, sometimes, is that these rings are irregular, faint, hard to read, as if the body itself was not sure how to count the years. A clock with no hands, still on the wall, still there. The midnight zone crushes everything brought from the surface. A styrofoam cup sent down on a deep sea submersible returns the size of a thimble, compressed, compacted. The air inside it simply gone. And yet the fish swim through it. The jellyfish drift through it. The amphipods scuttle across the floor, as if the weight were nothing. How? Because they carry no air inside them. No air pockets. No lungs filled with the assumption of surface pressure. Their bodies are made mostly of water. And water does not compress the way air does. The pressure outside them finds the pressure inside them already equal, already matched. There is no force to oppose, no imbalance to correct. The ocean presses in and finds itself already there. They are not surviving the pressure. They have simply become it. A glass of seawater held underwater. Nothing enters. Nothing needs to. And in that stillness, something else happens. Some deep sea creatures live for an extraordinarily long time. The orange, ruffy fish caught in the deep has been aged at over 150 years. The Greenland shark, which swims in cold, deep water, has been aged at over 400. Scientists believe its cells age very, very slowly. The cold slows everything. The dark removes urgency. There is nothing in the deep that tells a cell to rush. No seasons of abundance and scarcity to burn through energy fast. No warm months where everything accelerates, where metabolisms race, and age comes quickly. Just cold, just slow, just the long, unhurried passage through the dark. The Greenland shark, perhaps alive today, was born before the American Revolution, before the steam engine, before almost everything you have been told is history. It has been swimming slowly through water you will never see for 400 years. Somewhere in the North Atlantic right now, something is moving slowly through the dark. It has been moving since before this country had a name. The floor of the Midnight Zone is a record. Sediment falls, marine snow settles, layer on layer, year on year, century on century, and in those layers, a history. Geologists and oceanographers drill cores from the seafloor. Long cylinders of compressed sediment, and read them the way you might read a book. One layer, volcanic ash from an eruption. Another, a shift in microscopic shells that tells of a change in ocean temperature. Another, the faint chemical signature of a mass extinction. Everything that has happened on the surface of this planet has left a trace, eventually, on the floor of the sea. The Midnight Zone remembers, not in words, not in images, in layers, in the slow accumulation of what fell, of what was let go, of what drifted down through the dark and came to rest. Every layer pressed down by the one above it, the oldest ones at the very bottom, silent, still holding everything they were given. There is a creature in the deep that looks, at first glance, like something from a dream you might not want to have. The giant isopod. It is, in essence, a very large pill bug, the kind you might find under a stone in your garden, but grown to the size of a dinner plate. It has 14 legs, compound eyes that look in all directions, a hard shell it can curl into. It can go months, perhaps years, without eating. Scientists have kept them in aquariums, observed them sitting almost motionless for a year or more, having eaten nothing. Their metabolism runs so slowly, it is almost not running at all. They wait. They are patient in a way that has no word in any human language. Not meditative patience, not chosen patience, just the body ticking so softly that it barely ticks at all. Alive, waiting, not waiting for anything in particular, simply, still, simply here. A candle in a closed room. The flame so small, it hardly moves, but still lit, still somehow lit. There is a quality to darkness at depth that is different from the dark you know. The dark behind your eyelids still has the memory of light in it. The dark of a room at night has the possibility of light. A switch on the wall, a phone, a window. The dark of the Midnight Zone has no such memory, no possibility. Light has not been here for so long that the word dark almost doesn't cover it. This is not the absence of light. This is a place that has never known light. to be absent. It simply is a complete thing, not a lack, a presence. And the creatures here, the ones without eyes, the ones with eyes only for their own bioluminescence, they do not experience this as darkness. They experience it as the world. The way you experience air, not as the absence of something, just the medium of existence, the dark behind your eyes. Just that. Below even that dark, the earth is still working. There are places on the seafloor where methane and hydrogen sulfide seep up from below. Not from volcanoes, not from heat, from the slow chemical work of the earth beneath the rock. Cold seeps, scientists call them. And around these seeps, life. Tube worms that live for centuries, mussels that cluster in thick, dark beds, crabs that walk slowly through the chemical fog. An entire ecosystem built around a leak, around something escaping from below. The tube worms here are among the longest-lived animals on Earth. Some are believed to be over 500 years old. A single animal, 500 years. Rooted in one place, drawing life from what rises. They do not seek. They do not wander. They find the right place, and they simply stay. Slow and patient and very, very old. A house someone has lived in for so long that the walls have taken on the shape of their life. Every room worn smooth, in the exact places. They have touched it. When a submersible descends, the crew inside watches the light go. First, the blue. The surface blue, clear and full. Then, a deeper blue, greener, more muted. Then, a blue so dark it is almost not blue. Then, nothing. The last photon, gone. The lights of the submersible now. The only source of anything. A small sphere of visibility. A bubble of human light. Moving through the absolute dark. And the crew, for hours, simply descend. They watch the instruments. They watch the pressure rising. They pass through the zones, as if through layers of sleep. Lighter sleep, deeper sleep. Then the place where dreams go, when even dreaming is quiet. The seafloor appearing below them. A pale dust, a stillness. And then, there, everything above. Just weight, and water, and 4 kilometers of dark. When a submersible settles on the seafloor, the pilots cut the thrusters. And then there is a stillness that scientists describe as unlike any other. Not the stillness of a quiet room. Not the stillness of a night without wind. Something else. The instruments continue reading. Pressure, temperature, depth. The numbers don't change much. On the surface, stillness is the absence of movement. Down here, stillness is what has always been here. With or without the submersible, with or without anyone to notice, a weight that is not heavy, a quiet that is not empty. The lights, if they are on, reach perhaps 10 meters before the dark absorbs them. Beyond that, nothing that expects to be seen. A bathyscaphe on the seafloor. Its lights off. The dark exactly as it was before anyone arrived. In that dark, there is still something. Most communication in the midnight zone does not use sound. It uses light, chemical signals, touch. A jellyfish pulses a slow blue light. Not a signal exactly, not a warning, just a presence. Here I am. Here I still am. Scientists studying deep sea communication note that many of these signals are slow, slower than anything at the surface, as if the creatures here have learned that there is no need to rush a message. In a place where nothing moves quickly, the signal goes out. The dark holds it. Someone receives it eventually, or no one does. And that too is fine. A jellyfish deep in the water column, pulsing once, then resting, then once more. Not everything in the midnight zone moves through the water. Some of it simply sits. Sea lilies, crinoids, anchor themselves to rocky outcroppings and extend their feathered arms into the current. They do not chase food. They wait for food to arrive. They have been doing this for approximately 480 million years. The design has not required revision. Open arms. Current passes through. Something small and drifting makes contact. That is enough. That has always been enough. Scientists note that crinoids appear almost unchanged. In the fossil record, the deep ocean asked for a particular kind of creature, one that could be still and patient and open. And crinoids answered. They are still answering right now in the dark. Rocky seafloor. A crinoid, arms extended. The current moving through it. Above the seafloor, the water moves. Between the seafloor and the surface, there is a layer where small organisms gather, at a depth where pressure and temperature hold them in a kind of suspension. Every night they rise toward the surface to feed. Every dawn they descend again into the dark. This migration, just a few hundred meters, twice a day, is thought to be the largest animal migration on Earth. Not the largest by drama, by number. Billions of small creatures, moving silently, every night and every morning, and every night again. Most of them smaller than a thumbnail. None of them with any sense of the number. A single small creature descending at first light, the water darkening around it. Others all around doing the same. Quiet. Some of them simply vanish into it. Some animals in the midnight zone have evolved a different kind of hiding. Not camouflage, not darkness, transparency. Their bodies, organs, tissue, even some bones are nearly see-through. A glass squid in the midwater is almost invisible from the side. You can see its organs floating inside it, like small dark shapes suspended in water. The logic is simple. If nothing about you reflects light, then nothing about you can be seen. You become the space you move through. Scientists note that even the eyes, the one part that cannot be made transparent, are often pointed downward, away from predators above. The body becomes water. The eyes look down into deeper dark. A glass squid, perfectly still in the mid-water. You look toward where it should be. Nothing. Just the dark and the faint depth below. The cold down here does something else too. Cold and pressure together slow the chemistry of change. A whale that sinks to the seafloor does not decay the way it would on the surface. The process is slower. Each stage takes longer. And in that slowness, a community forms around it. A whale fall, scientists call it, that can persist for decades. One whale, decades of ecosystem. The deep ocean does not waste. What arrives? It holds things quietly and for a long time and gives them over slowly to whatever comes next. A whale's rib on the dark seafloor. Small, soft things covering it. The ocean floor is not flat. There are mountain ranges down there, longer than any on the surface of the earth. The mid-ocean ridge, a chain of underwater mountains, winding through every ocean basin, is among the longest geological features on the planet, taller than the Alps in many places. Completely unseen, the mountains rise. The dark water presses around them. No snow on their peaks. Just cold and pressure and the slow exhalation of heat from cracks in the rock. They have been there since before any ocean had a name. They will be there. After a ridge of dark rock rising from the seafloor, no light, no summit anyone has stood on. The seafloor is soft. In many places, the floor is sediment, a fine, pale layer of shells and silica and the remains of single-celled organisms that have been raining down for millions of years. In some places, this layer is several kilometers thick. Scientists drill into it and read it like a book. Each centimeter a century, each layer a record of what the ocean was at that moment in time. The sediment holds things. that nothing living can remember. Every warm period and every cold one. Every time the sea rose or fell. Every species that flourished and was forgotten. All of it held quietly in the soft floor of the dark. Pale sediment, a coarse sample drawn up slowly, light touching it. For the first time in millions of years, still soft, and in that dark, things still find their way. At the surface, animals navigate by light, by the sun, by stars. In the midnight zone, none of that is possible. And yet some deep-sea creatures migrate. Some find hydrothermal vents, spread kilometers apart, on the ocean floor. Scientists believe some of them use the Earth's magnetic field, an invisible net of lines running through the planet and out through every ocean and every deep place in the world. The creatures move along lines they cannot see, toward places they have never been, guided by something that passes through them. The way light passes through air, they always arrive. A shrimp moving across the dark seafloor. No landmarks, no light. Moving anyway. The deep ocean breathes, slowly, but it breathes. There is a circulation that moves water from the poles downward, into the deep ocean, and across the seafloor, and eventually upward again. This circulation carries oxygen, a molecule of water, leaving the surface near Greenland. May take 1,000 years to reach the Pacific seafloor. 1,000 years of slow descent, of cooling, of carrying a small amount of oxygen into the dark. The creatures in the midnight zone breathe that 1,000-year-old gift from the surface. Cold water near the surface. A slow downward pull beginning, already on its way, already eventually arriving. And beneath all of it, the dark. There is no darker place on Earth than the midnight zone. Not a cave, not a sealed room, not the inside of your closed eyes. Those darknesses are surrounded by light. Light that could return. Light that is nearby. Light that the walls remember. The midnight zone has no memory of light. It has never been lit by anything, except the slow, occasional flash of a creature briefly visible before the dark returns. Scientists who have been there describe it not as absence, but as presence. The dark is the thing. It presses in, not with weight, not with force, but with completeness. There is nothing here that expects otherwise. The creatures here were born into this. They do not wait for morning. They are already home. A single point of bioluminescence far below in the water column. Then nothing. The dark, complete. And now the stars are out. Or perhaps they are not. Perhaps where you are, there are clouds, and the sky is a soft gray nothing. And that too is fine. You have been somewhere tonight. Somewhere pressure arrives from every direction at once, so evenly that no one feels it as force. Past the glass squid, holding itself perfectly still, becoming the water it moves through. Past the sea lilies, with their arms open in the dark, already receiving. Past the crinoids unchanged in 480 million years, and the mountains no one has climbed, and the sediment that holds every century, quietly, in its pale and patient layers. Past the whale, still held in the cold. Past the shrimp, moving across the dark floor, without landmarks, without light. Past the water that left the surface 1,000 years ago and is still slowly falling. And past the dark itself, not the absence of something, but the presence of everything that has learned to live without needing to be seen. There is a world down there that has never asked for light. It has always been enough. As it is, let your breath slow now. Let the images soften. Marine snow drifting downward, slowly, in the dark. Already falling. Already enough. Sleep well. And thank you for dreaming with us. If this carried you somewhere quiet tonight, we'll be here again. Whenever you need to return,